Alright, day 3 of this video challenge. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different. I'm gonna record a little bit about my photo editing process, and I'm gonna record my screen and kind of show you how I like to go about it, and just kind of explain a few things that I like to do and some tricks that I've learned over the years when it comes to photo editing. So let's do that. So I like to edit in Adobe Lightroom Classic. So I like to cull my photos first, and then once I narrow it down to the ones that I do like, what I do is I start off by going to the transform section of Lightroom, and basically all this does is it helps you kind of adjust any distortions that there are based on the lens that you're using. So right now, you know, it doesn't always work perfectly, but you could click auto or level, and usually does a good job of adjusting any distortion that there is when you use that lens. So let me see if it works on this one. Okay, there you go. So here's the before, here's the after, and if you see, it just kind of helped unwarp the photo. So going through and adjusting the lens distortion using the transform tool usually does a pretty good job, and I like to start off by doing that to all my photos before I go through and actually edit them. Okay, so that's step 1. And the second step that I like to do is go through and apply my base edit. So what I do is I go through my presets and find one that I like. So for example, I like the way this looks. And what I do is I go ahead and actually change the preset. So for example, this one has some grain built into it. I like to remove that grain, and then while I'm here, I'll actually add some negative vignetting just to kind of make the corners a little darker and make the focus a little more on the subject. So I like to do that. And then I'll go through and basically tweak the preset. And once I get it to a place that I like, what I'll do is I'll take that preset and copy it and paste it to the other photos, assuming they have similar lighting and similar settings. That really helps save a lot of time when it comes to editing. Okay, so I applied this preset to the first photo here, and I like it, but I feel like the white is a little too much, like it's too bright. So I went ahead and just reduced the highlights. So here, I'm gonna show you what that looks like. I brought it all the way down to -100, just to give you an idea of what the extreme looks like. So if you see, the white isn't really white anymore when you take it all the way down to -100. And then when you turn it all the way up to 100, obviously it's way too bright. So you just double click highlights over here to reset. And then what I like to do is I like to just reduce it just a little bit. So about -25 I think looks good in this one. And then I'll go ahead and adjust the exposure to a level that I think looks good. So I just brought down the exposure a little bit here. And then I'll increase the shadows just a little. Okay, it's a subtle difference, but I like the way that that looks. Okay, so I'm gonna reduce the whites a little bit here too to kind of help with the dress and the sky. Okay, that's better, good. So then I'm also gonna reduce the blacks, which this preset automatically increased the blacks to kind of make the photo look a little brighter. So I'm just gonna bring that down. Yeah, -6 is about good. Okay, so here's the before, okay? And then after with my basic preset applied, and I tweaked it a little bit. So then usually what I like to do after I do that is I like to go in and crop the photo. So I just kind of like to not show any joints. I know that's a weird thing, but that's actually a general rule when it comes to cropping that is pretty helpful, is you try to not cut people off at their joints, because that tends to look a little weird. So I would crop maybe right about there, or let me bring it down just a little, right above the knee. Okay, let me adjust that just a little more here. Okay, just keep her centered in the photo. Okay, there we go, that's better. Perfect. And then sometimes what I like to do is go in and do some local adjustments. So things like teeth whitening, which I have a setting for here. I like to have the overlay showing just so I know where I'm painting. And then I'll just go through typically and just cover the teeth. And then I also like to adjust the eyes a little bit too, just to make them pop a little more. So I'll add another mask here and then go down to one that I have called Iris Enhance. So I'll also show the overlay for that and then just paint that real quick over the eyes. And then I'm gonna show you what that looks like here in a second. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the overlay, and this is before, if you look at the pupils right here. And then after, it just makes them a little brighter, grabs your attention just a little more. And then I'll show you the before and after for the teeth. So this is before, and this is after. So it just desaturates, takes a little bit of the color from the teeth, and then makes them just a tiny bit brighter. So those are some subtle changes that I like to make, and I'm pretty happy with the way that photo looks. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this edit. So on Mac, I would press Command C or Control C if you're on a PC. And what that does is it copies all the settings that you have for that photo. And then you hit copy. And then I go ahead and just highlight the rest of the photos that look similar in lighting. And then I'm gonna press Command V or Control V if you're on a PC. And that's just gonna paste those settings like I was talking about. One adjustment that I'm gonna make before I export this photo is I'm gonna remove the tan line that's on her left arm here. And for that, I'm actually gonna open this up in Photoshop. So I'm gonna right click, hit edit in Photoshop. And once that loads, I'll show you a pretty easy way to do that. Okay, so the tool that I like to use is the lasso tool over here. So I'm gonna select that and then zoom in here. And what I like to do is select the area that I want to essentially cover up. And so if you see here, I'm going to draw around this area where she has a tan line from her watch. So I'm just gonna keep it pretty rough. And then once that's selected, I just right click, come down to Content Aware Fill, and then it's gonna pop up this dialog here. And essentially, these green areas are all the places that it's sampling. So Photoshop is just looking for different places in the photo that it could grab similar patterns or a similar part of the photo to cover up the part that you just highlighted. So if everything that's selected in green is what you want Photoshop to sample from to cover up this area, then you can just go ahead and press OK. And you could press Command D to deselect and get rid of this highlight around it. And so right here we have the layer where it covered up the tan line. So I'm just gonna hide that just to show you what it looked like before. So right there you could see we still have the tan, and then when I show the layer again, now it looks all normal. So at this point I would go ahead and just save this photo out because it's ready. And that's typically what my photo editing process looks like.